Yeah, hello, I can see myself now. That feels better. Hello, everybody. It's Gina here from Gina Dallison Coaching for episode number 3 of Healing Vibrations. This is all around changing the perspective of illness and trying to see it as a gift instead of something that is something we don't want. It might be an unwanted gift, but if we can accept it as a gift and see it as a gift, then life becomes better. It becomes more enjoyable. We can feel better even if we are ill. So tonight is all around focusing on something that we do have within our control. So if you or anybody else that you know have been diagnosed with some lifelong illness, then chances are you probably would have been told at some point that there's nothing that you can do about it. So if you're here listening to me now, the great news is there is plenty that is within your control that you can do about it. And within the Healing Vibrations community, I've got a little low-cost paid-for group that comes together and encourages each other to keep our vibrations high, because when our vibrations are high, then we're more likely to see the positive in things. We're more likely to have the energy to make changes in our life, and we're more likely to see the life through a rosier set of spectacles. So that's why vibrations need to be high. But then also we focus on making small but sustainable changes that can then have a long-term effect in the trajectory of our lives. And each month we're going to be focusing on an area of our life that we do have control over. And January's focus is all around our environment. And particularly I've been looking at recently the idea of clutter and getting rid of clutter. So I've been doing some more investigations, and I have been doing a little bit of decluttering myself. And I would like to encourage you to think of little things that maybe you could declutter, depending on what your environment is like. So if you're going to come and join my community, I offer you a self-audit where you can look at, I've got 33 areas of your life that are totally within your control. And as part of the self-audit, we have 33 questions, one for each area of the life. And then we have a scaling question from 0 to 10. Where do you currently sit? So the idea of a self-audit is that you can look at where you currently are, and this will give you an idea, a bit of clarity, a bit of awareness. The first step to making any change is awareness. So I'll share with you a bit about my thoughts around decluttering and environment. And then I have an interview with a lady called Liz Almond, who is a mindset shifter. And part of the work that she does with her clients is that whole environment piece and decluttering. So we've got a little conversation around the mindset around decluttering, some hints and tips about decluttering. And then after we've listened to that, I'm going to share with you a process from this book, Ask and It Is Given by Esther and Jerry Hicks. And this is all around the spiritual teachers of Abraham. And they have a very excellent process that I've used myself for decluttering, especially if you get into that place where you don't want to get rid of stuff because you're worried that if I get rid of it, then I'm going to need it. So this will help on that. So I'm going to go through that as well to give you something that you can go on and maybe go and use a practical bit of advice that's not too massive. And then we're going to end with a nice calming meditation. So it's getting to that point of the night where we're all thinking about calming down. So with all these sorts of decluttering and doing, let's settle into our bodies and be and feel how it is to be us right now. So I will start off with the self-audit question, and it's something for you to ask yourself. So where are you currently would you say, in relation to your environment? So the question is, what sort of environment do you live and work in? And from a sliding scale of 0, so 0 is I've got no safe environment at all, and 10 would be I live and work in places of extreme beauty and efficiency. My transport is clean and stylish. Now, on the 0 to 10, this is just to give you an idea. So where do you think you currently sit in that scale? So do you live in a very beautiful, organized home? Or are there areas of your home that could do with a bit of improving? I think that's certainly where I am currently. And my house isn't too bad. I've moved quite a lot in the last 10 years. And the good thing about moving a lot is that you tend to declutter as you go because you don't want to carry too much with you. So, but if you've never moved or you haven't moved for years and years, then chances are you've got a lot of stuff that maybe you don't need anymore. And things that we hold on to tend to have an emotional tie to us. Things talk to us, even and depending how well you can read energies, the things that we've got in our house will either lift us up or draw the energy out of us. So if you have a little look around your room at the moment and think what brings you joy, or what you look at and think, oh my goodness. So for example, I've got a picture above my head. I'm looking this side so you can't see, which was is a Caesar Manrique picture, which was an artist from Lanzarote when I went on holiday. So I think it's a cool picture. It brings back good memories. So it's a good thing to keep. However, underneath the picture, I've stuck some things on the wall with blue tack and now taken them off, and the blue tack hasn't come off very easily. So these little things are things that probably I could do with fixing and doing something about. So when I look at what I'm looking at, my eyes aren't drawn to something that doesn't bring me joy. However, of course, the problem is I probably need to repaint the whole wall, and then it becomes a massive, great job. And also, if you're living with any sort of disability at all, decorating is not going to be the easiest thing to do. So we do have challenges, but that's not to say that we can't make some small improvements just to make us smile more. So one of the improvements that I've made recently is I got a new bookcase for the corner of my room, which just cost me £10 off things for sale. And I now don't have piles of books all over my bedroom because they've got a place to live. So having a place to live is a good idea. So the focus of environment is to get you thinking. It's not necessarily to go and sort out your garage, although if you want to do that, then that's great. But have a look around and see if there are any little things that have been niggling you, or when you look at them, they niggle you. You don't want to be niggled. You want to have a nice, clean environment, and having a clean place that you live in or you work in gives you a clarity of mind, which is helpful. And it also helps to keep your vibration in a good place. And there's nothing more satisfying, is there, than having a good clear out and actually sitting in your nice, clean house that you've just sorted out and cleaned. So my encouragement for you would be to have a look around, and if there's parts of your environment that you're not really happy with, then how can you go about to change them? Is it something that you can do by yourself? Is it something that you will need some help in? And I actually had a client of mine who's struggling with disability, but for her Christmas presents, asked some friends, rather than buying her a Christmas present, to gift her some time and to come around and help her with some of her decluttering. So that's a really lovely thing to ask for somebody. And it's a really tangible great thing to have help with, because also when we are attached to things, having somebody else there with us who's not emotionally attached to some of our things can help us be a little bit more ruthless and be a little bit more efficient with our time. Because it is all too easy, isn't it? And if you've ever done that thing where you opened up the cupboard and decided to sort it out, and then the next thing is you've got your head stuck in a box of old photos, having a great time, and realise that you're sitting in a right load of mess, and now you've got to go and make dinner or something like that. So it's made it worse rather than better. But actually, if you have somebody else helping you, that's not that whose time is also precious, you're going to be more efficient with their time and not going to be sucked into looking at old memorabilia. If you want to keep it and save it to later when you've got time to just sit and it's just a nice little box of photos as opposed to sitting in your mess, then these are little things that we can do. Another thing to think about environment is actually how you feel about your house, how you feel about where it is, the view out of your window, how noisy it is, how quiet it is, who else is in your home. These are all things to think about and use that on the scale of 0 to 10. So I would suggest if your number is 6 and above, that's not too bad. If it's below 6, and certainly if it's on the lower side of it, you might want to be thinking about making some changes. Making changes might not be easy, but once you start the process, things get easier and you clear little aspects. And what you will find is as you start clearing parts of where you live or smarting things up and just making you feel better about where you live, even if in the long run you want to be moving somewhere else, it gives you that appreciation of where you are, that appreciation that we have got a roof over our head and somewhere safe and comfortable and warm to live. Because let's face it, not everybody on the planet has that. So if you're sitting here listening to me in a nice warm room, in a comfortable sofa or a bed or a chair, then let's be grateful and appreciative of that we've got. But also look at what we can change for the better. What little changes could we make? Almost walk into your room with a fresh set of eyes as if it was the first time that you were seeing it. Look at your curtains, look at your lighting, look at your soft furnishings, look at your carpets or your rug. And just ask yourself, do I really like that? Or have you put up with something for ages and ages because it feels like it's too much effort to get rid? And of course, if we let things mount up and don't deal with them, it becomes a bigger and bigger job. So it's worth looking at doing little bits at a time and keeping continually on with it. Well, I'm going to share with you now the interview that I did with Liz, and I will discuss that afterwards. And she will share some hints and tips on actually clearing. And then afterwards, I'll give you the Abraham Hicks clearing tip, which I've used before and has been really good. So bear with me while I find the video so her name is Liz Almond, and she has a website called insightfulminds.co.uk. So if you want to know more about Liz and what she does, then that will be a good place to go. So I'm really excited to be joined today by Liz Almond, who is a mindset shifter, but she doesn't just shift your mindset. She also works with your actual environment as well. So we're here today to talk about how important the environment is on our health in general. And so Liz, how can you what has been your experience with working with people with illnesses, and how the environment or changing the environment has helped?
I think there's a massive amount people can do about changing their environment to feel better. And it does go on the basis of the feng shui principles. Well, I'm not a feng shui master to point that out, but of the fact that each aspect of our house relates to something about us. So when we look at it from that perspective, if we start shifting things in different areas, not shifting from one place to another, but going, do I actually really enjoy these items in the house? Because often we've kept things which we think we should keep, but actually don't serve us any purpose. And actually knowingly, it can actually cause us an annoyance, so we might look at something, oh, that's
something's broken, or something's
broken over there,
bad memory or something.
Bad memory. So all your photos should fill you with joy. But if you look at a photo and think, that was Auntie Mabel who died 2 years ago, and it makes me feel terrible, she's probably not good.
Not the best thing to have it up on your mantelpiece,
because your vibration will go right down, and how you're feeling will go right down. From a point of view of ill health, I think it's important for people to realise that there's so much people can do themselves. Having had lots of different health issues myself, depression, being a big one, but also chronic pain syndrome. A lot of that I realised about that was about my negative thinking, and often it's also about the patterns that we're in about things. So there'll be reasons why we're keeping certain things. Funny enough, I'll tell you a funny story that and this is before I was a therapist that I was told this. So I went to a psychic, and she was reading me it was for her practice. So I was like a case study, and that was before I knew that I was psychic, I should just point out. Oh, wow. And she said, and now at the time I was as head of teaching and learning at a big college. Okay, so I was very much not doing therapy work whatsoever. And she said, Liz, you're terribly interesting. She said, on the outside, you are, very, very precise. Everything's all in its order, etc. Said, what I'm feeling is actually, if we actually open the drawers up, you'd find that actually it's very cluttered. Okay, there's a lot going on. Well, I just started laughing when she started because
that was your house, was it?
Well, but also my work life. So if I would think about my work office, I can just picture in my mind now. I can see all the files all neatly ordered down the sides, and everything on my desk all looked absolutely. Then I had a clear desk policy, when I left, whatever. So if anyone came in, they go, "Ooh, lovely." But actually, if you open the drawer up, you wouldn't see loads of papers piled in, but they wouldn't be terribly well ordered. There would be things sort of thrown there. When I've got time, I'll sort that out. And it's exactly the same at home. It's like, and that clutter was there, but it was hidden. Yeah, and I think there are
some of that going on.
There's two sorts of you've got somebody who is openly showing the hoarding, and it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger until you can't get into the house. But you've also got some subtle hoarders. I would say I'm a subtle hoarder on it. Not anymore, but I was. Yeah. So because I'm quite happy to get rid of stuff now, because I see the benefit in me by doing so. So I'll regularly be looking at anything in my environment to shift to make me feel good. That's what I'm also known for, painting things madly. My best friend jokes that my house is smaller since I moved in, which was 16 years ago, because it's got many layers of paint on it. many times. It's in the process of being painted again.
Oh, wow. I'm the opposite. I don't.
I've not been there 18 months, because on the premise of everything we look at it might bug you, or is it no? And actually, my house had got quite dirty through the process. It hadn't been.
Yeah. No, I'm looking at mine. I
loved it. How I would love it, etc. And it's just one of those things. It's an old house. So it needed a bit more sort of love. And then you look at it with fresh eyes going in. It's quite interesting, and going, why have I never changed that heater? And I'm like straight on, gone and bought a new heater, and a new heater's in there. But for some reason, I've never noticed really that really needs to change. And it could be affecting the efficiency of the house and all sorts of stuff by having a different heater in it. So it's about looking at all different aspects of your house when you're going into it. But it's not just your house, it's also your office, it's also your car, it's also your garden. So you have to see random piles of things. What does that mean? If it's not organized in some way, organize it. So for example, somebody online the other day had said she was autistic, and she said, I'm looking to start crafting, whatever. Has anybody got any craft stuff? And I said, you know what, I'm moving back to my house. I will go through all my craft things, and you may have some things, but you'll need to bear with me while I do it. And it was really cathartic actually going through, do I want it, I don't want to do whatever. I've ended up with one small bottle, she ended up with this great big bag of stuff. Have it, you know, if you don't want it, pass it on, that's fine.
Because you mentioned earlier before we came on though about hoarding stuff is like blocks.
That's right. I see it's emotional blocks of us stopping ourselves. So when we're blocked, we sort of we'll look at something and go, can't really face doing that. Or it might be you don't think you don't have the money to do something as well. That will become a block as well. So it is just a case of one step at a time. I think what happens also, people become very overwhelmed. They go, oh my God, I've got the whole house to do. And that means I can't do it. So you do have to start small, but actually when you focus on one thing and you focus on one drawer and you get that drawer and you go, oh, it feels good. It feels good doing my craft stuff. And then the next drawer to that drawer. And then what's
I suppose that craft stuff you had to sort of end in, like trust somebody to give it to as well. So that gives you that.
I actually hadn't put that. I hadn't even thought about doing it. It's just a random thing that I saw online. I thought, you know what, you can have it. I'm not even going to try and put it to a charity shop or to sell it or whatever. You know, I've loved it, used it. Let somebody else enjoy it. And I went through it with her when she came round, and said, look, you know, I've given you 2 of the organisers as well, because I've got extra boxes, which was like, I don't know what to do with these. I thought, well, you may as well have them. If you don't want them, get rid of them. So I was even trying to organise what gave the stuff.
Wow, so what's your, because my mum always says, I don't want to throw something away because when I do, then I need it. Because she goes, that's been her experience.
I mean, I would say that's a limiting belief, okay? Because then you'll always, you know, keep something and then your mind will go, oh, you see, I needed that thing. And it might be in 10 years' time you need it, but actually it might not be efficient, that thing that you've saved in it. I mean, when I moved in here with my father 18 months ago, I decluttered the whole house. I was going through it, and with his permission, I didn't know to get rid of it. I just cleared your house, Dad, because there was loads of stuff that he wasn't using. But also, my mum died in 2012, and he hadn't got rid of certain stuff at first. And I was like,
so that's like quite an emotional tie as well.
I thought I got rid of quite a lot of this stuff actually, but by going through every cupboard, I found more. I was going, oh, found some jewellery. Did you realise? You know, there was nice finding photos and stuff, but there were other things which actually really should have gone. You know, in his there was you know, a box of toiletries. I was like,
I think as we're talking, because I've done a bit this month, because I've been focusing on, you know, environment this month, and like I said, I've got a new bookcase in the corner, so now I've got my books aren't scattered around all over my floor, which is nice. But I have got some drawers, but like you were saying, that actually, it's a waste of time me having the drawers really, because I can't remember the last time I've actually needed them for anything.
And that's the thing. I mean, my possessions have been, a lot of my possessions have been in storage downstairs in the garage since I've been here. I moved in temporarily with my father and then longer because of lockdown, and going back to my house now. And actually I'm looking at my possessions downstairs being stored for that period of time, going, do I still love those things? Do I need them? So as I'm deciding to go back to my house, even though I decluttered massively to move here, I'm doing the same process back into the house as well, because there'll always be things over a period of time that you go, am I ever going to use that? I'm ever going to need it?
Well, I suppose if you've been without it for the last year or so, then chances are that
I've not needed it. I've not needed it.
Yeah.
At the moment, I've got an agreement with my lodger that, you know, because she'd been in my house, you know, for a period of time, we'll use some of her stuff initially. So I've got to be, I can't just go, I'm getting rid of it now, because in 6 months' time she moves out, we'll actually need some of the stuff. I think the premise of I'll keep it in case, and it's, you know, like what you said about your mum. You know, I think from that point of view, well, there's always that's just a self-fulfilling prophecy that you're going to go, oh, I needed that thing.
Yeah.
But right, again, it's probably not a massive expense what thing you were keeping. I think from a recycling point of view, we can overdo it as well. We're so busy trying to recycle that we end up with, you know, we've got a cupboard full of what they call carry bags, for example. I've had it as a habit of taking a carry bag in. But even those, I'll you know, declutter those into the recycle things in a supermarket or whatever.
Right, okay.
To get rid of them so they don't build up.
So have you ever worked with clients with sort of long-term illnesses and finding that actually the process of decluttering or the process of sorting out your environment has been helpful?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think I was saying to you before, for me, it's useful to be within the client's environment. Sometimes I work a lot online now, but so sometimes I see behind them, which is quite interesting on it. But also being into their properties too. And sometimes when I first was therapist, I'd never ask about the environment. They've come to see me, we just chat, or did it even occur to me to be a problem until I actually did go to one client's house on something completely unrelated and was like, oh my word, I had no idea. So now, I've been doing this for years now, now do look at
a real key thing, isn't it?
Do have that conversation with them about what the connection is. It was interesting when I was delivering prescriptions through lockdown and not here, but in my where I live before I moved here, going to people's houses with all their prescriptions, and they've got like this massive thing that I'm taking of their prescription and going, have you seen how cluttered you are outside? I could tell there was long-term health illness with it, even by the amount of drugs that I was delivering to it. I'm thinking, why is this not being addressed? This is, needs to be addressed.
So I think this is
a issue about it.
Yeah, and I think there is, isn't there? We've seen on TV about these people that really super hoard, but all of us, I think, do it to a point, and unless of course you're now doing it as a thing to clear, and I think it's one of those things that we do have control over and we can make a difference in. So what would you say? I mean, you mentioned earlier about finding a little corner to start with. So is that your sort of top tip for?
I think yes. I think it's easy to get overwhelmed in it. I think if you can find a friend to do it with, or there are cleaner. Often, I mean, I'm just in a chat with somebody who's a cleaner and is also decluttering 2 hoarders' houses at the moment. And
to take the emotion, help take the emotion out of it. Yeah.
So that it's about being able to work with that person at the same time, say, well, what do you think? So a professional, organizer would be a good person to work with, but even a friend to support you through that journey, just to get started. And then you actually set little goals of what the project is to do, and then have those quick wins. So like going, wow, I haven't been able to see it out that window for however many years. And now
this is it. And I think certainly some of the clients that I have, the challenges that they have is the lack of mobility and the physicality of doing that. So to be able to find somebody that can help, even just carry some boxes downstairs or take it out to the charity shop. A lot of
it can also be about that person's lessons in life, about asking for help. And that's what the person needs to actually because it's all about giving and receiving. But they're afraid, they're ashamed of not being able to do it themselves, and the house gets in such a state and they're like, I don't want anybody to come in the house, there's a problem. So actually, when getting support earlier and asking for that help is a good thing to do, because actually the more you stay on top of it, the better you'll feel. The more you go to rack and ruin, the more it is to fix it, to get it back to where it needs to be.
Yeah, that's true. And then they ask for help gets bigger and bigger, but actually
and it's more expensive to sort out as well.
Yeah,
but it's very important to do the emotional journey around it. Otherwise, the person will re-hoard again or clutter the place up. So if the root cause isn't looked at, part of it that'll continue. So it's if you know that you have a bit of a problem with it, you should be doing some sort of emotional work, whether it's counselling or emotional freedom technique or bouncing.
To speak to somebody that can help, and you do stuff like that yourself. So if somebody wanted to get hold of you, where would they find you?
Best bet is to go to my website, insightfulminds.co.uk. Looking at probably the balance procedure training would be probably the best thing I would recommend for a hoarder, because it's very much something to do on yourself. So
sorry, can you say it, because you said that quite fast? What was that?
Sorry, so you basically go onto my website, which is insightfulminds.co.uk.
Perfect.
And what they can do is go to under training, balance procedure training, and that is using a set of energy cards on your energy, so if when you feel emotion about something, so for example, if I was looking at a photo and I was feeling really sad and I think I can't get rid of this, yeah, I would use the cards on myself to let that energy go.
Oh, so it's like they could do it themselves. It's like a self-help thing.
Yes.
Oh, well, that's amazing.
To me, it's very much about putting the person who's got the issue in, not in control, but taking ownership of it.
Well, I think that's a big thing as well, isn't it? Taking responsibility and taking your power back.
Yeah, the balanced procedure works on the premise that to be balanced, we're creating our own reality. So you need to start changing your thought process, changing your environment will start shifting. You moving forward. So it's very, very powerful in doing it. It works. So it's perfect for somebody who's procrastinating, has got trauma. Then most of us have got some trauma within. We've all got different deeper layers within, and that represents in clutter. As you declutter more and sort things out, you'll feel
balance. It gets more balanced. So it is definitely worthwhile. So if anybody out there has got those drawers that they just don't want to look at, or the wardrobe that you don't want to look inside, or if your house is a lot more cluttered than it needs to, little steps. And if you go to Liz's website, which is insightfulminds.co.uk, there's even a tool on there, which again, remind me, balance.
So if you go under training, the balance procedure training.
Balance procedure, that's it. Yeah. Then there's even a tool in there you can actually use for yourself. And obviously, if you need further help with any of that, then you can get in touch with Liz by then. Yeah. So thank you ever so much for sharing some of that. I know it's been a short time, but you've shown us some real gems there that we can start moving on, and also just to give us actually hope by clearing some stuff up. It clears the energy.
Having had serious ill health before, no longer a heart complaint I have had before, no longer chronic pain, no longer depression, you must always have hope that things will change. Hope stands for have only positive expectations. Take positive steps towards sorting yourself out, and you'll see that actually positive changes happen too.
Yeah, and it can start with one little drawer,
one little
corner of a drawer, and you feel better already.
Absolutely, there's so much that you can do, which is different to a medical view of how you are, and it's not about dissing the medics, but ultimately there's things which they don't know that you can change. And
absolutely, it's about
it's seen more as a Eastern philosophy of decluttering, where the whole sort of Marie Kondo thing comes in, but it's very, very pertinent to here in the West about how we do things, and looking at things in a different way. Look at yourself inward is the key thing. As you do that and let go of anything that get rid of anything that causes you negative emotion, you'll feel a lot better.
Brilliant. So it can be as simple as that. So take that and go.
It does take time though. We've been doing strategies for a long time, and it'll take time to unwind things again.
So if you need any help, come and speak to Liz. Well, thanks ever so much, Liz, and I'll close off now. Hello, I'm back again. So that was some real interesting thought processes, and I did like what Liz said about hope and having only positive expectations. And I think that when we've been given a diagnosis of something that is we're told there's no cure, it tends to sap the hope out of us a little bit. So what I would like to encourage everybody or anybody who's listening to this is the idea that actually there is hope. There is hope in so many ways, and this is what I want to be exploring in this broadcast, and bringing people on who have experience and demonstrating that. And I originally spoke to Liz because I was looking for somebody that's got a bit of experience with decluttering, and although she doesn't do it as a main bit of therapy, it is part of her process. But the fact that she's actually come on and she's had chronic pain syndrome and depression and a heart sort of murmur thing that she's all managed to heal herself, and she's now no longer got any of those. So that does give hope. It's not just through decluttering. Like I said, there's 33 areas of our lives that we do have control over. And some you might be, higher on the scale, and some you might be lower on the scale. But they're all part of the jigsaw puzzle of life. And it is a challenge to work our way through them. But it is possible. It is possible to make some changes. And with regard into the environment, and if you do feel, oh, wow, my house is a bit cluttered and, there is a lot of negative energy in there that is not helping me, the first and most important thing to remember is don't beat yourself up about it. Beating yourself up and having a go at yourself and talking down to yourself because of the situation you're now in does not help anybody, and certainly doesn't help your vibrational state and doesn't help your healing state. So if you are feeling in a place where you're not happy with your lower end of that 0 to 10, then find something in there that to take as a positive. So it might be that you've got a load of stuff that you've bought over the course of years, or you've acquired, but things in that you've had some fun acquiring that stuff. You really have. And this is what Abraham Hicks talks about in their book, around thinking about what you do want, not what you don't want. So what do you want out of changing your environment or clearing a space? You want ease, you want clarity, you want order and alignment. So it's that ease and clarity that you're working towards. And by having a clear environment, you get a clearer head. But it is possible to start clearing your head before the environment. And when we do the meditation at the end, we'll spend some time just closing our eyes and clearing our head. Because as human beings, we have a superpower. And that superpower is our imagination. So if we close our eyes, we can imagine a nice, clear room, a nice, clear space, or even just a clear sky. And that will give you the feeling of clarity. So you don't necessarily have to change your environment. It's changing how you feel. And you can do that using your imagination, using your focus, and using your intention. But what I'm going to share with you now, before we go on to the meditation, is a process that is in this book. So there's, I don't know how many processes at the back. There's a number of processes at the back, which are all around raising your vibration. And Abraham Hicks has an emotional scale, which we'll talk about at one of these podcasts. And with the idea that depression and sadness is right at the bottom, and then love and appreciation is right at the top. And then you've got all the ones that go in between. So this is about raising your emotional set point a little bit higher. So when your emotional set point is a little bit higher, you just see the world as a better place. You feel happier. You're generally more an optimistic person, and life feels more fun. So this is a process of clearing clutter for clarity, and it's process number 14. And what they suggest is, if you've got a room full of clutter, and the reason, and we talked about this earlier, the reason that people maybe don't want to declutter is, and this is a big one, and I know that Liz talked about it being a limiting belief, but unless you work on your beliefs and get rid of them or change the beliefs, then they're going to be there. It is good to notice that you've got that belief, because the first thing to healing anything is awareness. But you still might, if it's a deep-rooted belief, and you've seen evidence of it time and time again, it's still going to be a belief. So that belief is, if I get rid of this thing, then I'm going to need it. Oh, and I remember the last time I did some clearing out and I got rid of that thing and then I needed it straight away, even though I hadn't used it for years before that. And I don't know about you, but that certainly happened to me before. So this process will alleviate that problem. The other thing that might stop people from decluttering is because you think it's going to take too long. It's a massive great. I've got this room of clutter and it's overwhelming. I don't know where to start. So I'll tell you where to start, and you can do it little chunks at a time. So the first thing is to get hold of some boxes with lids. Now, when I did it, I just ordered off the internet some fold-up boxes that were about, I don't know, probably about 45 centimeters sort of long. They had little handles at the side and they had a flip lid that you could and there was 20 of them. So I got 20 of these boxes that I could make together, and they then fold down flat as cardboard. So make up a number of them. Maybe I did 2 or 3. Write a big number on the side. So each box is numbered, and then go through your things and decide, do I need this thing immediately? Am I going to use this thing? So if you're in, your kettle, for example, you don't want to pack away your kettle because you're going to be using that. But this book, am I going to be using it immediately? No, I'm not. So I'm going to put it in the box that I'm going to put books in and number that one. But then the thing is to actually write down. You can also speak into a recorder. This is what they suggest in the book, but I actually put it on a spreadsheet. I wrote it down and transferred the information to a spreadsheet, so it was easy to find. So I actually write down everything that's going in the box. So I'm putting the half-used candle in the box. I'm putting the Abraham Hicks books in the box. I'm putting the group of coloured pens in the box, in box 1. And then once the boxes are full, you put the lid on the box and you put it in a storage place somewhere. So whether that's a garage or whether that's a conservatory or under the bed or in the loft, wherever it is, just put it out of the way so it's out of your mind. So you've got a nice clear space now, but you haven't actually thrown away any of your stuff. And if you need to find that stuff, oh, I want that half-used candle now. Let's go through. And when you do it on Excel or do it on a spreadsheet, you can do a search. So it's easy to find. They suggest in the book by writing them down on index cards. So if you're a non-tech person, just get some index cards and put them in an index box. So then you've got like an index of all the things that you've now put away into the boxes, and then just leave them and see if you need them. And I would suggest in 6 months' time, if you haven't taken anything out of the box, you can just get rid of the box, or you can decide to do something else with it. But it takes the clutter out of your space right now. And actually, it doesn't have to take very long, because you can have these boxes. You can do half an hour a day putting things in these boxes, but you've got a record of them. So it might take a little bit of time, but it starts meaning that you're doing something different. And I certainly used that when I moved in with Mum, and we had a lot of things and not enough space for everything. And that particular process really helped, because I was able to go back to my list and then find the box that it was in. Okay, I think sometimes I probably didn't write it down as well as I could, but on the whole, it worked really well. So that is a process. If you've got things that you don't really know what to do with, you're not really sure, you can just declutter to start with, and then see if you need it. And then actually it might be an easy thing. You can just get rid of that, give that to the charity shop. I don't need anything in that box. All those half-used candles, I've never used them. I've never used them again. That, you can do the same thing with your clothes as well. You're looking at your clothes, how many, I've got that bikini that, you know, has always been too small for me or never was very comfortable anyway, but I've got bras like that as well that are never really comfortable and I've just kept. So as I'm talking to you now, I'm thinking there's little pockets that I could declutter. Probably your underwear drawer is a good place to start. Go through and, you know, decide what's not needed anymore. And if you want to put them away for the time being, and then see how long it takes before you actually require them, which is probably never. And then, of course, when we give ourselves space, then we've got space for new things to come in. So there's something really helpful about getting rid of things that we don't need anymore. And sometimes that takes some conscious effort, but it is worth it. So there we have some top tips really for decluttering. Start small. Don't beat yourself up. And how do you know if you're beating yourself up? Just listen to what you were saying around your cluttering. And if anything that you're saying or thinking isn't making you feel good, then change what you're thinking about. Change your thought process. Recognize that you are where you are and now you're in a place where you're willing to do something about it and make some changes. Do not beat yourself up, because that's the worst thing that you can do. And don't beat yourself up for beating yourself up. Just recognize that you're doing it and just choose to stop. You know, how would you be talking if it was somebody else that you loved? Talk to yourself the way you would talk to somebody, your best friend. Be your own best friend. And if you want to do some clearing and sorting the environment, come and have a chat to me, and you can come and join our little community where we're supporting each other, making these small changes, small but sustainable changes. And little things like, you know, getting a new bookcase has made such a massive difference. And that is something that just having the thought process of decluttering was enough to make me eventually do it. And it's something that I've been thinking about on and off for a while. So it's definitely worthwhile. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining me today on episode 3. Next week, I have another lady, which we're still around the whole environment thing. And I've actually got a feng shui expert who's going to join me, whose name is Moni Castaneda. And she has been doing feng shui for 20 years. So this is a whole new level of environmental things, but really interesting. So she's going to be joining me next week. So in the meantime, if you'd like to join me on a brief meditation, we've got 10 minutes to finish. So, and it's nearly 10 o'clock. So I would like to invite you to sit comfortably in your chair. Put your feet firmly on the floor if you're sitting up. If not, just enjoy the way your feet are feeling inside your socks or inside your slippers, and allow your feet to really relax. Notice how your toes are feeling. I invite you to close your eyes and take a nice big deep breath in. Hold the breath for a few seconds and then gently allow the breath to go. We're going to do another couple of rounds of deep breathing just to allow your body to fully fill up. So when you breathe in, imagine your lungs and your stomach is like a balloon which is filling right up. Then you're holding it for a couple of seconds and then allowing your breath to slowly leave your body. And as you're breathing in, just say in your mind, just say the word clarity, clarity. And as you're breathing out, just let go any thoughts of clutter or any things that don't make you feel good. So if you're closing your eyes and you're noticing your breath, just keep saying the word to yourself: clarity, clarity, clarity. Use that as a bit of a mantra. Keep breathing through the word clarity. Smile. And I would like you to imagine that you're looking out onto a beautiful, beautiful white beach. And it's the cleanest beach you've ever seen. It's just stunning. White, white sand. The sea is a long way out. You can just about see the sea on the horizon. And then you've got an amazing blue, clear sky. And as you're seeing this, the white sand, the tiny bit of sea, and the beautiful blue sky, there's no clouds in it. There's nothing on the beach. It's complete clarity. And when you've got this clarity, you know that your mind, your emotions are in a good place. You can breathe in clarity. You can enjoy the space that it gives you. And imagine your home environment and your work environment and your car and your garden. Just imagine all the spaces that you're currently living in, but imagine them clean and clear and beautiful. Imagine knowing where everything is. You know, if you've ever lost anything recently and got frustrated because you can't find it, then everything's having a home. Everything feels like it belongs there. Everything that you look at brings you full of joy. Just breathe in that clarity. And again, use the mantra of clarity and allow that to soak through your body. Take yourself back to that beach again. And just allow yourself the calmness, the clearness. Breathe it right in. If you're noticing any thoughts coming through your head, just notice them. And just allow them to dissolve, like they're dissolving in the sand. Gently being blown away, and you're left with a beautiful space. Know that if you can take yourself to this place of clarity no matter what is going on in your actual environment around you. And from this space, this clear space, and that will give you the energy to be able to do any clearing that you need to do, to allow it to to dissolve out of your life, like it was your thoughts were dissolving in the sand. Clarity. 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 Take a nice big deep breath in. Soak in that clarity, that calmness. Know you can bring yourself back here at any time. Might want to wiggle your fingers and your toes a little bit as you bring yourself gently and compassionately back into the room. Thank you for joining me on that little journey, and my apologies for any random noises going on in my background. I have a 14-year-old son playing Fortnite upstairs. Doesn't quite get a calm place. But if anything that I've said to you this evening has sort of triggered you in any way or brought up any concerns, then do feel free to reach out and we can have a chat, because there are lots of things that we can do to help ourselves. And environment is quite a tangible one, and it might feel overwhelming because sometimes, you know, our houses, there's a lot to do in them, isn't there? We do collect a lot of things, and there are a lot of emotional ties. And as Liz said, you know, getting to the crux of the emotion is something worthwhile doing as well. So if you need some help with the emotional side of things, then reach out, because I can teach you processes of how to dissolve the emotions and how to allow the emotions to move through our body, because I believe that illness quite often is emotions that are stuck in our body. So we can do some processing around actually dissolving them using our imagination and using our minds and using our bodies to dissolve emotions and allow them to move through our body. It's all possible. And the good news is that it's possible for everybody. You don't have to be anybody special. Everybody has this power. Everybody's got an imagination. We just need to use it for our own benefit and not allow ourselves to beat ourselves up. So on that note, I will close up and thank you for joining me on episode 3 of a podcast, Healing Vibrations. And I will check in with you next week. We have a feng shui expert, so talk more about environment and go a little bit deeper about environment. But in the meantime, have a fantastic week, everybody. And you know where I am if you need to get in touch. See you later. Bye-bye.